Hello everyone, welcome to the Vegan Eats channel where I'll be sharing vegan recipes, ideas, reviews, and life-changing experiences. If you want to learn how to make a cream and feta cheese that you can use on quesadillas, cheesy bean dip, on cheese boards, on top of salads, and in more dips, please stay tuned and I'll show you how to make it. Everything you need is on the screen, so feel free to take a screenshot at this point. You need to soak our almonds for 24 hours to make them easy to peel. If anybody knows how to make this process easier, please let me know. After peeling our almonds, I'm going to rinse them out. I'm adding some grapefruit seed extract just to kill any bad bacteria that might be in there. A necessary step, you don't have to do this, but I just do it because I'm a germaphobe. I'm going to shake that up. And I'm going to add a tablespoon of salt and some water and let that sit on my kitchen counter for 48 hours. I didn't record that part, but here is the after. There is some bubbles in there to show that there's like some fermentation going on and some foam at the top. I'll give you a closer look. See that foam sitting on the top? Our almonds have been fermenting in a salt water solution for 48 hours. Now we're just gonna strain that. Gonna drain that out and rinse it out. At this point, we're going to blend that up in a blender with a little bit of water to make like a kind of a cream cheese consistency paste. That's what we're going for. So not a whole lot of water. We can add, water as we go, a little bit at a time. This is what I'm going for right here. And the smoother the better. If you have a better blender than I do, go for it. Make it as smooth as possible. But this is what I ended up with. Look at that. I could just eat that right there. That is so creamy. And if you're going for a raw cheese, you can stop right here. But for me, I'm going to bring this up to a simmer by adding some water to a pan and putting my cheese in there, mixing that up, bringing it to a simmer. If I was going for a raw cheese, I would have added the rest of my ingredients here, but I'm kind of going for something different this time. So here I just added some water, mixing that up. Making sure I break everything up. After it comes to a simmer, I'm going to add some miso paste. I'm using chickpea miso paste because I'm staying away from soy. And this chickpea miso paste is going to add to the cheesy flavor. And to add more cheesy flavor, I'm using nutritional yeast, which is going to give me some added B vitamins too. I love nutritional yeast. It's so cheesy. I'm going to mix that in. I use this stuff on almost everything that I eat that is savory. At this point, I'm going to add my salt. I almost added too much, but then I remember that my almonds were fermenting in a salt water solution, so I'm going to take it easy at this point. Just add just a little bit, so add enough, whatever is good for your taste. And I'm also going to add my vinegar at this point. I'm using rice vinegar. You could use apple cider vinegar, white vinegar, or even lemon juice at this point. It also adds to that tangy flavor of the cheese. But I like rice vinegar because it's very easy on my taste buds. Smooth. Kind of like the difference between a bad wine and a good wine. Rice vinegar is so smooth. So I'm going to mix that in. I think at this point I was sanitizing some jars that I'm gonna store my cheese in. So if you want to go ahead and do that, you can do this at this point. I was steaming mine in a big pot. Then it's coming to a simmer. At this point, you can add your coconut oil if you're using coconut oil. But I was drinking a coconut earlier in the day, so I decided to use the meat from that coconut to make a kind of like a coconut cream. You know how you make coconut milk? Same process, but not as watery. And I am going to drain that paste over my paste or cream over my cheese. So right now I'm just scooping the meat out. I'm going to blend it with some water after I scoop it out. And the coconut cream or coconut oil that you're going to use is going to add to the creaminess of the cheese. It actually makes the cream cheese more spreadable and creamier. So here my coconut meat is blended up. I'll show you what it looks like. It's kind of like a cream consistency. So I'm gonna strain that over into my pan using a strainer. I should have used a bigger strainer, but I wasn't thinking, which I am guilty of sometimes. But I'm just gonna strain that over my pan to get that thick cream from the bottom. Trying to separate as much solids as I can. And trying to get as much good stuff. Not trying to waste anything here from the bottom. I'm going to mix that in. And then after that mixes, just gonna let it cool off for a little bit because I'm going to add some probiotics to the cheese after it cools off. I'll show you in a minute. But this is the cheesecloth that I'm gonna use for the feta cheese to drain the moisture out. At this point, my cheese is cooled off and I'm going to add my probiotics at this point and getting my cheesecloth ready too. So, and for my probiotics, I'm using a yogurt starter and the miso paste that I used earlier. I think I used about 3/4 of a tablespoon earlier, so I'm going to use the rest at this point. Get that good bacteria in my cheese, and it's going to help continue to develop the flavors as it continues to ferment, or as the cheese ages, I guess. That's a better way to say it. I should have added my probiotic yogurt starter here and mix it in at the same time, but once again, I wasn't thinking, so I'm mixing in the miso paste first. Could have been easier for me to mix them both in at the same time, but hey, I'm not smart sometimes, you know? So you need to mix that in real well because the miso paste tends to be clumpy. And that needs to be broken up into, into your cheese. And now I'm adding my probiotic yogurt starter. And I have used this yogurt starter to make so many cheeses. It's ridiculous. You would think it would only work for yogurts, but it works for cheeses as well. As long as it's that good bacteria, you're good to go. So mix that in. And then at this point, I'm just spooning out my cream cheese into my sanitized jars. And that's ready to eat right now. But for the feta cheese, I'm going to pour it over this cheesecloth, let it drain, because the water content has to come out to get it to kind of like a dry consistency that's crumbly like feta cheese, if you know what I mean. Right there, I'm just smoothing it out. And putting my cream cheese away. It's ready to go. I can use this on bagels, whatever. I've used it to make a cheese sauce that I'm going to show you later. And now I'm just going to try to tie my cheesecloth up so that the water can drain at the bottom. Bringing the ends together. I should have cut a bigger piece, but you know, like I said, sometimes I don't plan well, but it ended up working out anyways. I made it work. Bringing those pieces together. As you can see, the water is already draining out. See? That cheesy moisture straining out of our cheese. And in the end, I got it all together. And I ended up putting it on a strainer that I sanitized as well. Everything has to be sanitized. Make sure you're not getting any bad bacteria in your cheese. As you can see, the water is draining out. Yeah, I needed a bigger cheesecloth there, but hey, like I said, it worked in the end. So I tied it off and put it on this strainer, and that's going to help the water drain even more, like so. And I'm out of shot, but I'll show you. I'll give you a better shot so you can see how the water is draining. So these are cheese on top with the strainer, and the water is coming out at the bottom. I decided to make a cheese dip for like some falafel bites that I was eating that night with the cream cheese that I had just made that day because it was so good. I just couldn't get my hands off of it. So I made a cheese dip with some dill, some onion powder, some garlic, and some vegan kimchi, and I was good to go. I had that with some falafel bites and a side salad, which I spooned some of the cheese over on top. So I had a cheesy side salad, cheese dip with some falafel bites and side of potatoes. That was my dinner. The next day I had some quesadillas because I just couldn't get my mind off this cheese. And a couple of days later, I moved the cheese to a jar. As you can see, it's much drier. A lot of moisture has escaped from the cheese. And it's got that crumbly texture, kind of like feta cheese. And it crumbles. And the extra 2 days, leaving it out for the extra 2 days made it more tangy too, you know. And I had that over my salad that night. It was delicious. And over the next days, I was enjoying it on quesadillas, on cheese boards. I was going in with this cheese. I had it on so many things that I ate. And those quesadillas were so good. And on this cheese board, the cheese I mixed in with some dill, onion, and some sun-dried tomatoes. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you try it out. And please subscribe to my channel and click the notification button. And also follow me on Instagram at Vegan Eats with the Z at the end. Thank you.